Welcome to the Purpose to Create podcast with Natasha Wright, a business podcast for photographers and creativepreneurs who want to level up as they pursue their purpose to create. Lean in as we connect, inspire, and impact you as you build and grow your business.
I'm so hyped that you're here and listening to today's show. Today's guest is Anesha Collins, an award-winning photographer and cinematographer, speaker, and educator based in Orlando, Florida. As a speaker and educator, she passionately empowers creative entrepreneurs and business owners with the knowledge they need to be successful at video marketing and content creation for the growth and momentum of their brand and businesses. In today's episode, we're chatting all about video marketing. Hey, Anesha, welcome to the show, girl.
Hey, I'm excited to be here.
Yes, I'm excited to have you too. So let's jump right into it because we have so much to cover today. So first, I want to start off with saying I'm so honored and blessed that you're on the show today. And I want to know a little bit about your journey.
It's been a long one. It's been about, as a matter of fact, it's been accurately 9 years. I know that because I started my company on my dad's 50th birthday and he just turned 59. So he's always like my marker on how long I've been doing this because sometimes I forget. So I started actually as a volunteer photographer under this company called Kingdom Promotions, where I did a lot of Christian hip hop or Christian based events. So I was like, at the time, I was like the photographer that you wanted to have for any events that were like Christian events, things of that nature. I used to sell merch under that company. And I was just like, this is not like, God, I don't feel like I'm walking in my purpose or whatever. And then one day I actually borrowed my mother's camera and I went to a concert that we were having and he put me on merch, the owner of the company. And I said, hey, can I take pictures? And he was like, at the time, we didn't really have like a dedicated media team. So he was like, yeah, go ahead. Man, I was in the zone. I was in the zone, like really in. And it's just the world. Like, I know this sounds creepy, but it's not. Like, for me, the world literally stopped and it was just me in the moment that I was able to like snatch and steal. And that's how I kind of see a lot of things. I think that's also why when I work with and have worked with celebrities, I don't get caught up in like that hype or anything because it's just like, it's me in the moment and I'm really in the moment, even though I'm capturing the moment. I've been doing that for about, like I said, 9 years. I also have a nursing degree. So before I went full time with my business, I was in the nursing field, so in the medical field. So I worked in the ER, I've done surgeries, like post-op surgery, not in the OR. And I kind of like went in and out of that in the beginning, like every business owner, like, can I really do this? Then you have the family that's like, you don't need to be doing this. You need a real job, whatever. Like so we make money as photographers and videographers, but that ain't a real job. That's a meme. But yeah, just kind of going through there. And then I was always doing the commercial work, but I launched my education side I started doing it like here and there inconsistently about 2015, 16. And then 17, I was just like, man, I'm sitting on something and I know I'm sitting on it. And I was obedient to that and launched that. And then it really started to get, its feet moving in 2018. And it's been taken off ever since. But I still run my photography and video business full time. And it's actually, they both helped each other grow because a lot of people ask me, how are you doing speaking and teaching, so well in video marketing? Like, how is it affecting your wedding business? I'm like, no, actually it's bringing me more because first of all, I'm strategically speaking where I want to speak. Right. I'm also not just speaking in the wedding industry because I have a commercial background and a wedding industry background as a creative. It just keeps opening more and more doors. And honestly, it's 2019. I'm sorry. The whole like, master of one and that, that quote. I'm saying
exactly.
Jack of all trades. I do believe you should know your craft or whatever it is that you're doing. But this is what I always say when people come at me. Jay-Z, Beyonce, and Diddy. Those are the three people I mentioned. And every single one of them have at least 7 streams of income. So that's what I have to say about that.
Multiple streams.
Yes.
Get your streams up.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I want to talk about a couple of things, but one of them is that what keeps you inspired to hustle as hard as you're hustling? So you're doing speaking, you're educating, photography, videography, traveling? What keeps you inspired? Because when I see you online and you're doing your video marketing and your IG stories and your Facebook and you're being present and in the moment, it's like you're speaking to me. I know you're not speaking to me, but that's how I feel. I feel like, oh my gosh, girl, I can relate. Yes, I need to be doing this. You always inspire me to want to do it. I haven't done it yet. And we'll talk about what stops us from getting into doing video marketing and showing up online for our audience. But I want to know what keeps you inspired to keep doing this.
It really starts with the experiences I've had in corporate America have not been the best. And a lot of people won't even come out. Usually their response is my passion. Like, it really has to start with that for me, at least, because corporate America has changed so much and it's become so toxic that no one's job anymore is a quote unquote guarantee. Even if you've been there 30 plus years or whatever, they fire you like nothing. So my thing is, you know what? Like, you only have one life. Go for what you really want. Go for what you were put on this earth to do. And for me, that's like what motivates me to get up every day. And especially, like, I know we'll probably talk about it later, but my personal battle that I went through, I still, like, the week I was in treatment, it felt like I got hit by a bus, another bus, and another truck. As soon as my brain and my body were in sync again, I was up. I may have been in my bed, working on stuff, but I was still doing what I needed to do. And it's just that motivation that I want to be successful. I want to make an impact. And I'm also slightly rebellious. And I know that's probably the part where people go, that's the one that she doesn't really like say,
right?
Because it's in me. Like, I don't act it. Like, it's a part of my whole character makeup, but I'm rebellious in the sense that if everyone's going right, I'm going left. I've been like that since like elementary school. Like, my mom can tell you some stories. We laugh. We randomly bring them up randomly and we laugh all the time. So I think I'm a mixture of different things that like motivates me to do what I do. And I want to be different. I don't believe in that you have to have 20K followers or 100,000 followers to be influential. I tell people all the time, I'm like, I have I have a little bit over 5,200 followers, and I still get contacted by big brands. I deny brands. Like, people be like, what? I'm like, yes, because I really care. It's not about like the metrics or the popularity. 5,000 followers is not $5,000 in the bank. You can't cash likes and hearts in Chase Manhattan Bank.
You can say that again.
It doesn't convert, so all those things, like, this list probably can go on forever, but I would say top tier. And just wanting to be able to provide for myself, which is obviously essentially why anybody wants to make money, provide for myself, do things that I like, etc. Especially now that I'm bigger into self-care. Because in the past, before I had battled cancer, I was business. Everything I did was my business. I didn't do anything for me. And that was like the one, as a matter of fact, like, as soon as I found out I had cancer, I was like, when I'm cured, I'm turning up when I can for me, because like the whole life is short. Like, literally, I was perfectly fine to me. Yeah, I didn't know this was brewing in my body. And then one day everything just fell apart. And it was like, you hear those stories and you kind of go, how can just one day everything fall apart? Like, I'm a witness to it does happen that way. And people who saw me like before I knew I had cancer, but I was always like tired and stuff, even though I was still hustling. That's what I thought I was my reason. I was just like, oh, well, I work a lot. I'm not really sleeping, like I should be. People who see me now, they're like, you look brighter, you're happier. Like, one guy was like, listen, I mean this with all respect. He's married, like, nothing, no disrespect to his wife. He was like, no offense, you kind of look better now than you did before you even knew. And it's possibly because, like, looking back, like, my skin was blotchy. So all of that, like, I feel like I got another start, like a refresher, but the journey wasn't easy, no part of it. So all of that. Sorry, long-winded answer, but
no, it's all good. We have nothing but time. And so while we're on the topic, because you just kicked cancer's $$ and I want to talk a little bit about that journey, because I remember on social media watching your IG stories, and you were actually attending a conference, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
And then from there, it was just a fast trajectory of your diagnosis. And we're going to talk about some of the challenges you faced in your business, and with this one being a challenge that you faced. However, you were able to persevere and get over it. And here you go. And so I want to talk about, because you were still hustling through it all. I mean, you may not have seen all of what you've gone through, but the parts that you did share, sis, you were out there still hustling, still grinding, still doing it with a smile. Even the days you didn't want to show up, you still were showing up. And that right there, it made me fall in love with you even more. And so I want to talk about the challenge you face, because as creators, I feel like a lot of times we go through things, but we're not as open to share what they are because we feel like we're the only ones that are going through it. In fact, we're not. And so I want to stay right there for a little bit, and let's talk about challenges in your business.
Yeah. So it's so funny because, well, you know, Joy Michelle Photography, her and I are like really close. We actually met on the internet, and we support each other a lot through like business and stuff like that. And what I was doing when I was going through treatment, religiously, every cycle that I had, that I would come out of treatment and feel better, I take pictures of myself, my own photo shoots. So another reason why all these people talking about, I don't got time, I was doing it. I had chemo and radiation in my system. I set on a little tripod, find my little angle, and I would take my headshots and my pictures. One, I needed content for social media. Yes, I was sick. Yes, I was in treatment. Two, when you're speaking, you need to have updated headshots. They like to have recent, like they don't want to see a headshot that you took in high school. So, you know what I mean? So I was doing all of that. And then, just teaching on video marketing myself, like I needed to make sure that I was practicing what I preach, even though I was still, like, a lot of people would say to me, oh, you're like, yo, you have cancer, you're going through treatment. Like, you have an excuse, like you have a valid excuse. I'm like, nah, like that's not me.
It's no excuses.
Yeah. So it was hard, but I'll never forget when I was sending pictures of Joy, she was like, sorry, but how the heck do you look so good? And you have just like, and you have cancer, and I don't understand, but not in a bad way. She was just like, I could see the joy in you, that you're still living and enjoying life as much as you can through this. But she would be there for me too. Like I'd have my days when I was just need to talk to someone, or like I would be having a bad day, and either her, Chip, or Michelle Harris, they would randomly check on me. And I'm like, okay, God, like they would just randomly, because as a creative, and this is me being real, like real transparent. And I talk about this in my Facebook group. As a creative, you want to create. It's in your bloodstream. And I would go on Instagram and I couldn't shoot a wedding that month or whatever because something was going on. And I strategically would only book weddings when I knew I was going to be out of the reaction cycle of the chemo. And I would just go on Instagram. I'm like, man, I'm failing. I would just like attack myself. And I remember like Chip saying, yo, you're still showing up. And I was like, nah, bro, but I'm not. He's like, okay, trust me, you're still showing up. Like, I know what you're going through. And like, people don't even know chemo has side effects to like your nerves and stuff. So there are days when my hands start burning and my feet start burning, but you wouldn't even know. I'm out there shooting. There were days when I had severe nausea, but I was wearing a little pressure bracelet on my arm, and I never took that off until I found out like I was good to go, because I was using it as a crutch for nausea. I just was like, I have a resilient spirit. It's also why I named my dog Phoenix, because I believe in like the rebirth and rising again. And so like I've been through, that's another podcast. Okay. But I've been through so much. Like, I'm not even saying that to sound extra. I've been through a lot, capitalized, all caps. And so I think my spirit has just built up resilience to just fight. But I've learned what battles to fight, because when I was younger, I was fiery. Like I was just like, rah, rah, pit bull. Yeah. Now I'm like, nope, not that. Yes, this is worth it. Yeah. Like, I'll show you, they can't see, but I'll show you, Natasha. Hold on. Let me see if it'll pull up. I'll show you one photo that the public hasn't seen here to show you how bad it was. Can you see that?
Yeah, I can see it.
That's one of my burns from the radiation.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. that's just one. Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of people have no clue. Now, it doesn't look like that now because thankfully I would also study like remedies and stuff.
Right.
To do afterwards. And basically with radiation, it's like a bullet. I know that sounds weird, but when the radiation goes through your body, it literally goes through. So what you see on the outside is like a bad, severe sunburn from the radiation. And what a lot of people don't know is you can actually get cancer from treatment because radiation is like sunburn. So there's a lot of things that you have to make this decision sometimes on the fly. I think it really becomes a matter of like choosing what's best at that moment because you don't really know. You don't know what's guaranteed or not with cancer. And a lot of times by the time you find out you have cancer, you're behind. So doctors are trying to get ahead. And when you hear people say like, oh, my cancer spread, it's because cancer has legs. So in the body, it starts to like Spider-Man is the way I could describe it for people who are listening. It's funny using Spider-Man as a reference, but yeah, that's pretty much it. So like I said, just having a resilient spirit. And I think my business and my brides kept me alive because it was like, I have something to do. If I didn't have something, like my brain was like, this is just a temporary hiccup. I like to call it a reset.
Right.
You're not going to be here forever, but you have to go through this.
Right.
And I don't know what people believe in spiritually. I do believe in God. I have a different way of communicating with him. I am not the get on your knees type of prayer person. I'll pray just like this, like out loud conversation. But there were signs that he would talk to me all the time, honestly, through ladybugs and hornets. And I know that sounds weird, but whenever there was something that we needed to make like a medical decision on, I would literally, if I was outside, I would literally see either or. Like there was one day where I was walking and I was trying to walk through this gate and it was one of my scans that they had found that there was evidence in my lymph nodes, which is not good. And I was mad and I was just like, what does this mean? I'm supposed to be healed. I'm supposed to be done. This is supposed to be over. And I remember walking through this gate and there was a hornet on the left side and a ladybug. And I love ladybugs, and ladybugs for me is always a sign of peace. And I remember trying to walk through this gate and I stopped, like literally, it's like a force stopped me. And it was like, we can't do it this way. We have to do it another way. And that's when I found out that I was going to have chemo that was going to literally take my hair, take everything, because I couldn't have surgery because of where the lymph nodes were. I would possibly die from bleeding. So I would get like just different, he would talk to me just different ways. And the last message I got the day after I rung the bell, it was a ladybug on my roof, no hornet, but I cried because she was walking away. Like every time she would always walk to me or fly near me or land on my window or on me. This day she was on my hood and I was going and opening my driver's side door and she walked away, but it was like a peaceful walk. Yeah. Like, you're okay now. Yeah. And I was just like, yeah, it was like one of those. So I do believe in, everyone has their own, what they believe in, a higher power. But for me, God always talked to me through discernment and visuals. I've always been
right.
Premonition, which they say is graph or whatever, but yeah, whatever.
Right.
Like going too far.
Right. No, it's all good. For me, mine is butterflies.
Okay.
Butterflies and elephants.
Yeah, everyone has their own.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But I want to go back a little bit because I know that you had to literally choose between life and death. Mm-hmm. And there were some hard choices that you had to make that would eventually impact some things in the future that you would have to decide whether or not you wanted to do without or so I want to dig a little bit deeper into it, if you don't mind, and talk about some life or death. I mean, when we talk about, but did you die though? Literally, it could have caused the death of you.
Right.
If you didn't have the support to make those difficult decisions. So I want to talk about some really hard choices as females, especially. I'm talking woman to woman, because I know that this treatment and chemo really had you to think about some things. And so the first question I have is, how long did you have to do chemo? And as a result of that, what are some difficult choices that you had to make as regards to that?
By calendar, like date to date, I had to do chemo for honestly probably about a year and a half with like a 6-month gap somewhere in between, which is where the lymph node issue came in, which we were not expecting. So just to kind of give people a basis, I had stage 3 cancer. So the next is stage 4, and then you're pretty much like terminal, which always like freaks me out that I was like right there, because I had no symptoms before I had symptoms. And by the time I had symptoms, it was just like, it was bad. And
so it went straight to stage 3. It was no...
Yeah, I never had like gradual, but just going, I'm trying to like tell the story, but not be so drawn out because it's long. It's a long journey. But just put it this way, like as soon as we found out, because when I first found out, they were like, oh, it's probably stage 1, which the remedy for it is different. And so you actually have to go through a surgery. I had 4 surgeries before I even started treatment. So that's another thing a lot of people don't know unless you saw my post about it. But there's certain surgeries that you have to have for them to properly diagnose you, because they need to properly treat you. So it wasn't until that surgery, but in that same surgery, I had to decide whether I wanted to have children or not. So that was like, what? I thought we were just trying to, figure out what's the grade on this here. Like,
right.
When I gotta, yeah. So, and honestly, like looking back, the decision wasn't completely mine, but it really was. It was the best decision for me to have a good life moving forward. There are some drawbacks to it. It definitely helps with me having some normalcy in different ways, but making that decision was hard. Now, I can have children if someone else carries for me. I cannot carry. Does that make sense?
No, that makes sense.
That's not a guarantee of having children, because somebody might, first of all, I don't know, you be hearing some stories. So, and yeah, so pretty much I kind of went to, I would never have my own children. And then people were like, oh, well, you can adopt. And I'm like, I know there's kids out there. And again, it's probably another episode, but just that decision there. But in the surgery process, that's when we found out it was stage 3. So the doctor did come in and she did say it was curable and treatable, which is good. But again, cancer is tricky. So you can go from that to, we don't know what we missed or whatever. I do believe between God, prayer, I changed my diet a little bit, not everything, but a little bit, to what I felt like, especially dairy, because it causes mucus and inflammation, and sugar reduction, because cancer loves sugar. So those were things that I really like put my foot down on. But I went through that whole process, and right after I came out of surgery, they were like, boom, you're starting treatment. So I never, I didn't have, usually after surgery, you have like a recovery period. I didn't have that. I went from surgery to surgery to surgery, chemo, radiation, like that was my life. And I was still shooting. There were some days, I hate to be so descriptive, but if you have a soft stomach or you haven't eaten lunch yet, sorry. But there were some days I was throwing up in a bucket in the car, and I would do whatever I needed to do to freshen up and go shooting. And nobody knew, because I looked at cancer as like an inconvenience, not as you're going to take over my life. And so I, having that mindset, I was like, I got stuff to do. Now, there were certain things I couldn't do and, wouldn't overload myself on. But yeah. So, and even the children part is still sometimes hard for me, because for some reason, like after that, like all of my friends were like, I'm pregnant. And I'm just like, dang, God, like, okay. And some of them were really close to me. A lot of my brides got pregnant out of nowhere. So I was like, y'all been busy. But yeah, when it really helped me reframe my mindset about social media. That's when I started coming up with these posts that people, like I just posted like a week ago, people are like, that, like, please make more of those. Because it's like people fake in front for social media so much. And you got people out here who are literally like depressed, killing themselves, unfortunately, or just putting these massive, strong goals that aren't even their own goals because of people on social media who may not even be doing what you're seeing. Like, you're only seeing a certain percentage of it.
Right.
So I see it all the time. And this is no shade. This is no shade to anybody. But it's like you have husband and wife duos who are like, we're like the perfect couple, and they fighting, or they're divorced, but they won't tell the public that because it's going to mess up their brand. And I've worked with a few who I'm like, whoa, you ain't what you showed on Instagram. Or you have like full-time people who are on Instagram, but they don't also share that they have a full-time job. Like, that's why, honestly, I have so much respect for Terry Baskin, because she came out and was like, yes, I got a full-time job and a full-time business. What? Like, she Cardi B'd us on, like, you can do both, because Cardi B was like, I'm not going to let y'all talk about me and put these labels on me. I'm going to tell you my flaws. There
Right.
they are. And what? And not that Terry having a full-time job was a flaw, but she came out because so many people front, like, they don't have that. And so, like, just little things like that. Stan Lowe's another one that inspired. First of all, like, we already know his work is phenomenal. That's a given. But dude makes time for his children all the time. And I'm like, this dude be everywhere on the map. And you guys sit here like, I don't have time for this. But he makes time. So I think it's just figuring out, like, to stay in your lane, mind your business, develop your priorities, come up with your strategies, and things will flow better. And like I said, for me, having cancer, that was hard. It was like, I was like, yo, I'm not shutting down my business. Like, I would tell my doctor, okay, we're going to have treatment on this day. Y'all going to give me fluid. Like, literally, I would go in twice a week. You're going to give me fluids on this day so that I can cleanse my system faster, because the more water you drink, the faster the chemo leaves your body and your kidneys. So I would come in right after treatment, like 3 days later, get fluids so that I can ramp up. And like usually by like the next week, I was a little better. I wasn't completely like chemoed out, like cleared out, but I was able to function a little bit more normal. And I did that the whole time. Yeah, it's a lot.
So how did you not prepare your brides, because you were still actively shooting during this time?
Yes.
Did you tell your clients about your cancer, or what was that like?
Okay, so I only missed one wedding, which I didn't technically plan to. And that story's still hard for me, but I'm grateful for the bride that it was a friend of mine, and she was like, I don't care about my wedding. I care about you. And I cried my eyes out. I took care of her. I don't do refunds, but because of my situation, I don't, but I took care of her because of the situation. And I was like, at the end of the day, like, this is the right thing to do. And, finding out I was good. So that, helped, but it was hard. That was probably one of the harder things, but I blacked out. Can't help that. So that's when I made it like a priority to, if I know I'm having chemo, to give my body that time to readjust, so I wouldn't take weddings around the chemo weeks. When I was going through it in the very beginning, it didn't affect any of my weddings, but it affected like delivering the final product. So what I was responsible business owner, and I said, hey, this is what I'm going through. No offense, I already shot your wedding. So, it's really a matter of them just waiting to get the pictures and the photo. And I would keep them updated. I would say like, hey, your video is, 50% done. This is when you'll have it. And honestly, I'm trying to think, like, all of them were like, we don't care. Like, of course they wanted it, but like, we don't care. We want you get Anesha where she needs to be. And when you get us our stuff, like, we're cool. So when I would have the good energy, I'd come and start editing and send them their stuff. And they were so sweet. One of the testimonials on my site is from a bride that went through when I was going through that. And she gave me the most beautiful, but she didn't know. That's the thing. Like, so it's a genuine testimonial. But I also reached out to someone who had been in the wedding business for a few years, and she was like, let them know. You don't have to let the public know, but at least let them know so that they're not like lost, like, well, what's going on? Because I am so informative. I do communicate and I do show up. And that is one thing, like, people started to see like, oh, are you still like shooting weddings? Because I haven't seen you go live. And I'm like, first of all, you ain't watching, because I still was going live, but I wasn't going as often. So I think just like things happen. And I think that's why I don't mind sharing those things on Instagram, where I'm normally on, with the public, because we're human. And I think they see us as like superhuman, because what do? We are in the business of perfection when you are shooting weddings. For the most, we're not going to show a bad photo as much as possible. Like, so everything they see from the wedding industry most of the time is perfect and glamorous and flawless and oh my gosh. And it's like, so when you come out with a hardship, it's like, well, wait, this doesn't go.
Right.
And they forget we're human. We get sick. Sugar, honey, iced tea happens. You know what I mean? So just being responsible as much as possible. And I feel like you have to do what works for your business. You know, maybe it is a matter of not saying anything, but there's a risk to that. And there's a risk to saying it. I'm one of those, like, just go with what, you know, is good for you, best for you.
Right. No. So thanks for sharing with us and sharing with me and opening up your heart about cancer and your journey with it and still rocking it out as a hustler in the industry and still doing your thing. So I appreciate that. Mm-hmm. But now we're going to switch gears and we're going to talk about video marketing trends. And we're going to jump right into talking about some strategies for video marketing. And I feel like some of the things that we just talked about is a part of video marketing, with one of them being showing up and being genuine. Mm-hmm. Because people relate to that. And I think that was very important that we started with that foundation, because that is really a part of, if you are incorporating video marketing into your business, into your brand, part of that is showing up. So we're going to dig deep and we're going to talk about some strategies into video marketing.
The first place that you need to start is knowing who your target audience is. Like Natasha, like we had a private convo before we started talking. Like, she knows her vision, her goal, all of that for the podcast, right? So she knows who her target audience is. If you are trying to use video marketing in your business and you don't know who you're talking to, like, it's literally just going to go nowhere, because you're not connecting, you're not resonating. The content that you make is probably going to be more so for you and not for the people who could use it, because again, you don't know your audience. That's honestly one of the major things with any creative, even as a wedding photographer. Like, you want to know who your ideal client is. And I know, like, in the beginning, I used to hear that all the time, like, know who your avatar is. I'm like, man, this is not a movie. Like, why do I need to know who my avatar is?
No, that's true.
Yeah, but as I started teaching and doing more and honestly saying, you know what, let me just try it and figure out who mine is, it makes like 190 billion % sense on why you need to really do that. So that's the first place to start. Then the next place is to determine, like, what's your ROI. And you know, getting on video is not just, let me grab my cell phone and take a video in like selfie mode, you know, angle wise, and there's your video. Like, that's not video marketing. Like, it definitely involves, you know, categories of content. Again, the target audience, what's your end goal? What are you using it for? Are you using it for brand awareness? Are you using it to serve people? Are you using it to entertain? Are you using it to educate and inspire? Are you using it to have like a video and podcast platform, meaning like you get on video and then you strip the audio, and then now that content becomes your podcast content. There's so much that you can do with video marketing. It really is endless, but the reality is that it's going to be the number one method by 2021. And we're only like 6 months away from 2020. So when I tell people that, they're like, oh, it's 2021. I'm like, no, but we're 6 months. You're going to blink and we're going to be in 2020. Then You're going to be like, shoot, I'm behind. So,
right.
Yeah.
I want to park there for a little bit and talk about some trends that you're seeing. You mentioned that we're 6 months. It's crazy to believe that we have 6 months left in this year. And by the time this episode airs, it's going to be 3 months left in the year. So what are some trends that you're seeing? Because if video marketing is going to be pretty much the way and by 2021, then what are we doing now?
Well, that's the first thing, honestly, like just start. Don't overthink it. Even if you're starting with like your smartphone, go find some natural light and, you know, you can do like a pretty background or whatever, but don't overcomplicate it. Just start with, you know, something small. Instagram stories is also another great place to start small, because you already have an audience. They're already there. And it's really just a matter of connecting. Now, I'll tell you, going into trends, IGTV and Instagram stories is actually what Instagram is going to be favoring moving forward. Now, I don't know what's going to happen by 2021, 22, because they change all the time. But right now, 2019, those are the two things that they're focusing and putting primary. If you look at your explore page and you look at the tabs up top, it'll say IGTV, IG stories, and then all the other categories like food, fashion, all that jazz. But they put those two in the front. So those are things like you need to be socially aware. You need to be socially listening. Like they didn't do that just because it was like, oh, let me just put it over there. Like there's a reason they're saying we want more content that's going to go under these two categories. So if you can develop content for that, this is where you're going to be. So definitely get on IGTV and IG stories. Live streaming is not going to go anywhere. So IG Live, Facebook Live, there are tools that will actually let you do both at the same time, like Lula TV. So you can check them out right now. It's free. I would go check them out before they can pay for it.
And what was that called again?
Lula. It's LOOLA.TV. So the letter T and letter B. So that's a good resource. There's also StreamYard, which lets you stream to multiple platforms at the same time. That one's not free, but it's worth it. And it also lets you do interview style stuff too. So it's kind of right now it's being compared to BeLive TV. I think depending on what you're doing video marketing wise, if you're someone like me who's pushing a lot of content, teaching, traveling, all that jazz stuff, StreamYard is really good. If you're going to have a consistent show or consistent video, StreamYard is where you want to go. I had a little bit of trouble with BeLive. Not that it was horrible, but it wasn't ideal for me. I got on StreamYard and I took off. So, but you got to find what apps and tools work for you.
Right.
So that's another trend. Definitely, I know I mentioned it, but IGTV alone, like even if you're not going to do live streaming, IGTV is definitely another place where you want to start developing and using content on blogging with video. So blogging with a B, not vlogging. I don't even think blogging has the same effect that it was at one point, because everybody who got on was like, I'm vlogging. It's like, that's not vlogging. So I think it kind of died in its own way. But again, if that's your thing, like Joshua Dwayne does really good vlog style videos. That's his lane. He figured out how he wants to use video marketing in his business. So those are some of the other trends, but definitely just showing up using video. So I think I kind of gave you like at least 3 or 4.
Right. Yeah.
You can like decide which one or all that you want to use.
And I want to go back to IGTV. How can we get started with using it? Do we need to do like a minute, 2 minute? Is there a certain length of time that we need to focus our efforts on using that for maximum exposure? Or what is the best way to use IGTV?
Right. So again, I'm always going to say this, and you guys are probably like, oh, she's saying it again. Target audience and user-generated content, that they go together, because if you know your target audience, you know what they need. So I would tell you to start developing user-generated content. So an example, let's just say you're in the wedding industry and you're a wedding photographer. Look at the things that your clients are constantly asking you about. That's user-generated content. Like, that's why I get so mad when people say, I don't know what to talk about. So you don't talk to your clients because they stay having questions. No one just comes to you and says, hi, love your work. Give me contract, here's money, wedding day. There's always conversation in between where they're giving you that user-generated content. So start there. If you have less than 10,000 followers, you can only upload a video for 10 minutes length. Honestly, right now, no one's really watching that long of a video on IGTV. So I would say anywhere between like 3 to 5 minutes is a good place to stay for a length of content. But honestly, that's why I love video marketing too. Like, you always need to be testing what works for your audience, because, example, somebody will watch an hour-long video by Gary Vee if they're a Gary Vee fan.
Right.
Somebody will watch an hour-long, yes, and you don't even realize it because you connect with him, you love his content, you relate, right? Same thing with Jasmine Star. So it's like, you're not looking at that clock. You're just like, oh, she's done talking. Like, now where's the next video, right? With someone who may not have that following yet, or that audience, evangelist and loyalty yet, and that's the truth, she or he may only get 1 to 2 minute retention. So I say that, anywhere from 3 to 5 minutes is a good place to kind of play and see what your audience is liking and paying attention to. But what you really need to know about IGTV, it's not even like the length, it's the topic that you're talking about and that retention. So what are you saying in your video and what are you writing in your IGTV caption that's making the audience stay there, go back, watch the video, etc.
Okay. All right. I get it. That makes sense. And so with IG Live, that's only up for 24 hours. And so should we really be focusing our efforts on IG Lives? And if so, once we've finished with them and we feel like it's really great content, should we just create it in a highlight and have it to stay there so then that way our audience can go back and look at it anytime?
So that's a really, really, really good question. If you have a topic that you want immediate engagement, back and forth engagement, Instagram Live is the place to do it. Like, hands down. Facebook live streaming period is the place to do it. So if you're looking for like feedback, answers to questions, stuff like that, like you want that immediate engagement, immediate response, you want to do that. And definitely repurposing it in your highlight is great to do. And I noticed this the other day, so I'm not sure if it's a setting, because first Instagram has been like testing and changing a lot of different stuff, so I don't know. But I noticed that I wasn't able to put my live in my highlight. I've been able to save like stories in my highlight, but I wasn't able to put my full live. But this is a strategy. I'm not telling you anything you can't find on the internet for this one. You should always download your lives and then repurpose them anyway. So for example, if you can't put it in your highlight, throw it on your blog, because you can download it, upload it to YouTube, do the description and all that on YouTube. Get that link and throw it on your blog, so you can link people still to that live that you did on Instagram through your blog, which is what you honestly should be doing. You should always bring your audience back to what you own. You don't own Instagram. You don't own Facebook. You don't own Twitter. So if those platforms just shut down one day,
like it did not too long ago,
I wrote a huge post about that because people were like freaking out. I don't mean to sound shallow, but people were freaking out. And I was sitting here like, let me use my email list, because Facebook and all that's down. And I sold that day. I was still selling, because you have to bring people back to what you own. And yes, I do know that the platforms don't want you to bring people off their platform, but let's be real. Like, you need to be a responsible business person. So, nurture them on there, but also let them know you have a blog, you have a newsletter. But that's the thing. A lot of people don't have those other avenues, so they don't send them off the platform because they don't blog. They don't have a newsletter. And I'll tell you like an example. Brittany Hahn of Hustle and Flow Official, she has this quote that I love, and she's like, blogging is like watering your garden, or watering your grass. Like, do you want your grass to be brown and ugly, or do you want your garden to blossom and bloom with flowers? So if you think of vlogging as that, blogging again with the B, because I know sometimes audio sounds like V, then you'll find the importance to it. For me, like, I think people get caught up when it comes to blogging, like, I gotta blog all the time, another one. And it's like, if you blog, there's 52 weeks in a year. If you did 52 blogs for the whole year, like, even if you batch them ahead of time, which you can do, you'd be set. And then you could just blog in between with the stuff that actually happens in real time. Or if you know you're going to have an event that happens in real time, then when you're making your list of your 52 blogs, you separate that. So let's say like blog 1 through 3 is like personal life. And then 4 is a real wedding. 5 is an engagement session. So you leave those slots open for like your bookings and stuff like that. And then the other slots become fillers.
Right.
You can do it. You can do it. You just have to sit down and make it a priority. If you got time to watch Game of Thrones and all this other stuff that you're doing, Netflix ain't paying you to watch Netflix. You paying them to watch something on there.
Right. Exactly.
And I'm not saying you don't have fun, because I just finished watching Always Be My Maybe and 2 comedy episodes by Ali Wong, and she is hilarious. But at the same time, I get up in the morning, 5:30, and I knock my stuff out between like 5:30 and 9:30. That's when I'm in my high grind, like because everyone's asleep. So yeah.
So I'm hearing no excuses.
Pretty much.
So you mentioned something that I think is really important, and I don't want the people to miss it. So I'm going to say it again for those people. This is a note that you need to take. If you don't take anything else away from this show, is that you need to draw people into the things that you own. You need to make sure that you start that blog. Mm-hmm. You need to make sure that you start on working on your email list. Mm-hmm. Again, if these platforms ever go away, you want to be able to connect with your audience offline.
Yep.
And so I thought that was something really important that you said that I wanted to kind of do a major key alert on, because it's really important, and we shy away from that. So if you're one to say, Tasha, Anesha, I just don't want to show up online, I'm nervous, I don't know what to say, how do I get started? Well, start on that blog and start on that email list, and then you incorporate your video into your newsletter, into your blog. You need to show up. If you want to be like Jay-Z and Beyonce and Diddy and have these multiple streams, like Anesha said, you got to get out there and put in that work. You have to.
Yeah. And the other thing too is that there are brands and items that Jay-Z owns. Like I just found this out like 2 weeks ago. I was shocked, but I wouldn't be surprised. There are brands and items that he owns that we don't even know. Like he just has his hands on it and his money in them, but he doesn't have his name on it. And I think sometimes too, people are like embarrassed, either if it's a product that they don't want like to ruin their rep, so they're embarrassed to put their name on it. You don't need to put your name on it. Just put your money in it, invest in yourself. So yeah, when I found that out, I was like, he's what? Like, yeah, I'm like, he's like a story in himself. Just go watch him too.
Like a whole story is a whole story. I mean, and being a photographer, there's ways for you to have at least 7 streams of income with your camera, speaking and educating and podcasting and blogging and product and guides. And I mean, I just named like 6 for you guys. So there you go. Freebies for you. You didn't even have to pay for a consultation from either one of us.
Nope.
To get that information. So yeah, I think that's really important. Another question I wanted to know is about would YouTube and Facebook Live, would those things be considered as video marketing too? And if so, how do we even get started with that? Or are we repurposing our information from, let's say, IG Live and things like that? Are we repurposing that information on those types of platforms too?
So it's always best to post natively to these platforms. And I'll tell you why. The only 2 that you can kind of get away with posting the same content is Facebook and Instagram, because Facebook owns Instagram. But do not post your Facebook Lives as YouTube videos. The main reason, not even because they're in competition, is that there's a severe drop-off once people find out that, oh, this was a Facebook Live that you just threw on YouTube and tried to do as a YouTube video. This is where, like I said, using a program like StreamYard, where you can, do the same kind of video content at the same time on a different platform, or even recording a different angle with a different camera. So, the Facebook Live looks different than if you're recording it on a DSLR separately. There's a lot of different things that you could do, but I know for sure, like, do not repurpose your Facebook Live on YouTube, for that reason. So another thing too, like as far as getting started, if you're not going to do 5 platforms, which is the minimum that I tell, like when I teach, I tell people that they should honestly be on at least 5. So you rent 3. So 3 of them, like you're just there to show up. And then 2 of them are like your heavy hitters. So for me, mine are Facebook and Instagram. I book from there. My clients find me there. My couples find me there, like all of that jazz. Now I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Pinterest. And I'm on, I just lost the last one, YouTube. There we go. Because I was like, what is this on the tip of my tongue? But I use them for different purposes. YouTube for me I'm not about being YouTube famous. It's strictly SEO purposes. I want to show up and be found on Google. Sometimes I use it for unlisted videos, like for back end pages on my website that no one will see it unless you're a client. So for that purpose. LinkedIn, obviously, business to business, is the most professional platform. And honestly, people are sleeping on LinkedIn with video, because video is actually picking up on LinkedIn there. You can go live as well. They'll be rolling that out more, but there's certain accounts that can do that now. And the cool thing about LinkedIn is people are not there to play. It's other professionals who are there to get this work, as they say, or to connect with other professionals who could do what they do. I've gotten people from LinkedIn as well. So I would say my rule of thumb is the 5 platforms, figure out the 2 that you convert in, that you have the most engagement. And then the other 3, you're just showing up, because people aren't following you on every platform. So there could be, like Natasha, there could be someone who could find you on Pinterest that wasn't following you on Instagram, and you just booked her straight off of Pinterest. But if you're not on Pinterest, she'll never know that you exist. So, coming up with a strategy on how to distribute your content on the multiple platforms is really the thing. And having content is great, but if no one sees it, just like not knowing your target audience, it's pointless. So they say that like content is king, but distribution is queen. So you have to come up with a distribution plan that really works for you so that you can get out there. And I'm telling you, and I mean this again with all due respect, there are businesses right now who are hurting because they're not evolving and they're not willing to pivot. I'm not getting on video, or I'm not doing a podcast, or I'm not, I don't know, whatever, blogging. They won't do it. And it's like, okay, well, Sally down the block whose work sucks compared to yours, who might be like a worse DJ compared to you, is booking because she's showing up. She's showing up. She's top of mind and tip of tongue to clients and couples within the market that you serve. You can't be mad at Sally. Like,
exactly.
That's how I say it.
So I know we talked a little bit about YouTube and how to use that for video marketing purposes, but I want to jump into Facebook Live. How can we use Facebook Live for video marketing?
So there's so much that you can do with Facebook Live. Again, find your target audience, whatever your niche is, that is how you find your target audience. Because I know people are like, I don't know what my target audience is. So this is like the quick way to do it. Okay. Your market is not your target audience. Your market is the industry that you serve. So for example, I'm in the wedding industry, and at the very least, I'm a wedding photographer. That's another market, and a wedding videographer, right? But my niche is weddings and intimate elopements for couples that love style and class. That's my niche / my target audience. And from there, you should be able to just go, what do they want? Like, it's really that easy. So if you're struggling with figuring out who your target audience is, like, I want to challenge you to do just what I just did for your own self. And then it'll be easy for you to find that. When it comes to like what to do video marketing wise with Facebook, the number one thing that has the most conversion is having like a live show or some kind of live consistency, even if you're not calling it a show, because people will show up, they'll get used to that content, they're going to want more. I had a bride all the way from Ohio contact me. She's like, look, I already booked my wedding photographer, but she don't post no content, and I'm afraid, like she said it just like that. And I was like, I'm in the same industry. I told her, like, I don't want to do something shady. I said it may not be an indication that she's not booking, she just may not post a lot too. But that's what couples see. So, when people say blog or show up in video or do your podcast, and you have to be consistent, because once you stop, it's like, well, what happened?
Right.
So live show is definitely a good one. Behind the scenes is good. Is good on there. You can even do pre-recorded videos and release those. So maybe you're talking about topics that you've already written on your blog, and that's a great place to start. You just elaborate on video, and you can repurpose them back on your blog or reference back to your blog if you feel like maybe you covered like a list of 7 things and you only covered 4. Well, if you want the rest, head over to my blog. It's a great strategy to try as well for Facebook and live streaming on there.
Oh, I really like that. I like how it's kind of like the bait. You show up a little bit in Facebook, and oh, you got me real hungry. Let me go over here into your blog, and now you got a new subscriber to your blog too.
Yeah. When I first started, I wasn't reading it like, good morning, children. Like, I wasn't reading like Mr. Rogers, but I was reading my blog. Like, I would just turn it into a more entertaining, inspiring way, because on video, you have to go up at least a notch. So if you're like this, if this is kind of like your normal tone, you got to come up like here. You got to bring your energy about here.
You really do.
Really not a lot, because video is 2-dimensional. So people can't, they have to feel you a little bit more. With podcasts, actually audio is a little easier to hear when we're going in and out of different levels and emotions. You can hear that. So that's just like one thing, about video. And then just get over the whole, I'm afraid how I look. I'm afraid. Cause again, my friend Sally down the block, she's going to get on live stream and she might not have any business doing Facebook Live, but people are going to see her as an authority because she's showing up. And it's like, well, so-and-so is not doing this, so she must be the expert. And that's really what's happening, honestly, across the globe with digital marketing, is that people who are like, hey, we're about to do this video thing, and they're showing up, they're just ranking higher. That's why, if you think about it, most of the viral videos we see, they're garbage. I mean, they're funny, but they're not highly produced or high quality, but the people are showing up and they made content that was relevant, that they knew was going to connect. It's the same mindset for you and your video marketing.
And you also use it in your groups. I heard that you mentioned that you have a Facebook group. Mm-hmm. And so how are you not selecting the members in your Facebook group? How are people a part of your Facebook group? And then how do you show up live for them, and how is that a part of your video marketing strategy?
I'm sorry. I'm laughing because the word selecting is 100% right. How I let people in my group. So I was laughing. I was like, "Oh, she knows." Honestly, again, with my transparency with social media, with my Facebook group, I only want people in there who are going to work, who really want to do it. And I made a post. I was like, I don't want lurkers. I started removing people because Facebook tells you last time they commented, when they joined, all of that. I was like, what are you in here for? You haven't said anything in 8 months. Like, so you buy, and I'm posting content all the time. So it's not benefiting you. Some people have asked to come back in and they're like, oh, she's not playing. I didn't want to cultivate an environment that was focused on vanity metrics of, oh, look, I have 2,000 or 10,000 or 13,000 followers. Like right now we have about 588, something like that. And they're active people. And that's all I wanted. So you can join my group through my website, which the short link is bit.ly/learn-with-AC. That's how you get in the Facebook group. And it's the same link for the website, except add edu at the end of it. So it'll be bit.ly/learn-with-AC edu. But those are two methods where you can join the Facebook group. And I have a questionnaire, and I look at every person. And I'm serious about it because even as a leader, it's draining when you're spending hours. I mean, you host a podcast. People don't see the back end of, you coming up with who to interview and questions and all. They don't see that. They just see the final product.
That is a whole episode right there.
Yeah. So I said I'm gonna interview you. So yeah. No. So it's real. And I was like, I'm not going to just have a group just to say I have, X amount of numbers and push my vanity metrics. Like, I want people in there who are not going to be lurkers. So that's the environment that I cultivated, and it's working fine.
So you put them to work. They got to work for the knowledge that and the time that you're putting in.
Every month. Yes. The time that I'm putting in, they got to put in too. But why not? Like, you're in there for a reason because you wanted to learn more about video marketing. You wanted to do it, and you need to do it. And usually, like I said, it's limiting thoughts. But the people who say, you know what, like, screw this, I'm just going to be a woman or a man and put my big girl or big boy panties on and go and do it, they're killing it. Like Joy Michelle, who's in my group. In under a year, she has like 25,000 YouTube followers. Like, killing it. She had a baby, y'all. Okay.
Just had a baby. She's killing it. I interviewed Joy, and she said, Tasha, do you have a YouTube? And I said, no, not really. She was like, well, now that we've talked, you have no choice. You have to have a YouTube. So she's going to help me get my YouTube set up, my YouTube set up. So I have no excuses now.
Yeah, she's actually on my list for interviewing as well in my group, because I want to show people, like, it's easy for the teacher, quote unquote, to say, yeah, do this. And people are like, yeah, well, it's easy for you, whatever. It's like, now I want you to see someone who started from the bottom kind of thing. And she's killing it. Like, relevant topics, consistency. Yep. She has great, and guys, like, her videos are not even complicated editing. Like, it's like, she comes with a little intro, her Instagram handle. She gives you the meat in the middle of what you're talking about, what she's talking about, I should say, and her clothes, and she's out. Like, it works because she knows her audience. She knows what they need, and she's taking the time to map that out. We were actually just talking yesterday about that because I'm about to do a huge batch recording for my YouTube. And we were just talking about like different things and just to dialogue with someone who understands like what goes into that. But yeah, it's possible. You just like you make it a priority to get that lens or to follow that photographer on Instagram that you just want to be, you have to figure out and say like, do I want to make video marketing a priority? And then just do it.
Right. And what I keep hearing is a reoccurring theme is that you really have to know your audience. None of this will work if you don't know who your audience is. And if you don't sit down and take the time to really figure out who your avatar is, who you're talking to, who your ideal market is, it's dead. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, it does not really make sense to put the effort into learning any of this if you're not going to put in some work too. You got to do the work. Like, you can't just show up in video and think that you're going to find your audience. You got to know who your audience is so you can talk to those people. But no, I keep hearing that throughout this conversation. And again, another thing, if you're taking notes, make sure that you take the time to find out who your audience is and who you're talking to. So if your audience or if your avatar, so let's start with your avatar. And if your avatar is, you know, Beyonce got Sasha Fierce, right? So if you want it, Sasha is your avatar, and Sasha, she is a roundaway girl. No, we don't want no roundaway girls. We want people who want to spend money. She is a professional, anywhere between 35 and 44. She works for herself. She's a thriving entrepreneur. She shops at Banana Republic, J. Crew, Polo, wherever, H&M, Forever 21. Who shops at Forever 21 anymore? I don't know. You know, you understand what I'm trying to say. For those who don't know what an avatar is, I just gave you a little bit about it. Go Google, figure it out yourself because it is there. Or if you don't know, go to YouTube. Anyway, the information is out there for you to get started. Yeah. There's literally, again, we're going to say this again, no excuses.
Yeah. And the deeper you go too with figuring out like your avatar or target audience, whatever, they mean the same thing, essentially. Like the deeper you go, it really does help in a lot of other areas with like your messaging on your website, because again, everything that you do needs to connect. The messaging needs to be the same. So if you're saying this on Instagram, when they go to your website, they need to get that same vibe. If it doesn't match, you lose them. That's where like ghosting comes into play, or people like, oh, I set my pricing, but they're not calling me back. It really isn't your price. It has a lot to do with like your copy and your messaging, your visuals, all of that. Like people who message me on LinkedIn, the first thing they say is, if I go to your website and your Instagram, it's the same. Not the same, like boring, but the same vibe, the same energy, the same quality, the branding colors, the text, like all of that. And it's the same thing for video marketing. Like your video content needs to match what you're putting out there. So if, for example, like if you're on video and you're like, you know, all bubbly and happy, and then I go to your website, it's like, welcome, click here. You know, people are going to be like, oh, so what happened? Like, you know, yeah, who wrote this or whatever? You know, so that's why I tell people, and when I first started business, I was probably guilty of it because you just don't know any better. But I tell people, like, don't go on someone else's website and copy what they're doing, because now you can look to be inspired. You can look for like, oh, wow, that's new, that's different, that's innovative. But the minute you start taking like their direct language, you lose yourself. And it's not the same. Like if I was to go to Natasha's site and copy her words, like how she has it verbatim, which you shouldn't do because that's copyright infringement. But anyway, if I took that and like put it in my video or put it on my website, it would be a disconnect. It would be a complete disconnect. So I tell people, like, the figuring out your target audience and the avatar does wonders for you and your client. So just do it. Period. Like,
period. Just do it.
Yeah.
So what I'm hearing is consistency. Mm-hmm. You have to be consistent.
Yep.
Know your audience, be consistent, and show up.
Yep.
That's it.
TLC, target audience, go live, be consistent. Those are like the top things that you can really do video marketing. If I had to say like 3, TLC.
I love those tips. I love those tips. So we're going to wrap up because I'm sure that we can talk for hours.
I could.
And I'm sure after we end this recording, we will. But we'll wrap up and give the folks some time to digest all of this, all these gems that were dropped today. Mm-hmm. I'm really excited about your upcoming projects that you have coming up. But I also want to know if you can share with us how we can stay in touch with you after this episode, and also tell us about any upcoming speaking engagements you have or how we can find out about them. Because you just did an awesome speaking engagement. I saw online, again, because she shows up and she's consistent. This is how I find out these things. I go to IG stories. You just wrapped up an awesome conference that you were speaking at, and I heard nothing but rave reviews about it. And so I want to know, how can we stay up to date with your speaking engagement so we can learn more about video marketing?
So the best place, honestly, is my website. This is the same one, the bit. And I'll give it to Natasha for the spelling if anyone is having trouble. But it's bit.ly/learnwithac.edu. That's the website. If you scroll all the way to the bottom or from the menu bar, it says hire me to speak, but you don't want to do that because it'll make you fill it out. If you're just trying to find out where I'm speaking, on the bottom, there's a speaking and travel schedule. So I update that all the time, but I can tell you just some upcoming stuff. So I'm going to go backwards. In November, I'll be in Texas at Style Shoots Across America. I'm speaking there on video marketing. I'm really excited about that because I have this point of view about Style Shoots, and I want to learn a little bit more by seeing how she runs her conference. I heard some amazing things about it, so I'm excited to speak there. That is November. And then I am speaking in London in October. Yeah, that one's like, I'm still kind of shaking in my boots about that one, but they love the topic that I sent. And it's probably, I would say, right under WPPI. That conference is probably like that level for me. So I'm excited and nervous, which is good. It means I care. Then in August, I'll be speaking at Hustle in Heels 2.0, which is Michelle Harris's workshop. The lineup on that is crazy. I'm even looking like, how did I get that? But I love Michelle. Like I've been name dropping a whole bunch of people in this whole thing. It's just because when you start to meet people who see things the way you do and have goals, like that's what you do. You just like, you're excited. You're just as excited for their stuff as you are for your own. So that's August. And then I have, I feel like I'm missing one. That's why I opened this. I have the International Women's Business Systems Summit, which is September 23rd to the 27th. So we're going backwards again. And then June 27th, I have a Southern New Orleans education seminar with Alana. She's in South Carolina. She's super funny. I met her in person. Super hilarious. She's like me with the straightforwardness, but like, I'm like in junior level. She's like senior. I'm like freshman, sophomore year. She'll tell you like it is, but with all helpfulness. And then next week, I'm speaking at the OBB retreat. So by the time you guys hear this, unfortunately, you won't be able to attend that because that's June 18th. But that will be in Orlando, Florida. And I'm excited about that. That's a real intimate retreat. And they're getting like hands-on stuff with me. So yeah, I'm excited about that. And just whatever else God sends my way. I know I'll be at Reset 2020. So if you guys can't do anything for 2019, you can look into that. That's in March. And I heard the location is like if Joanna Gaines made it. So that's probably going to be fun to see all the shiplap and stuff. Yeah, that's like my upcoming schedule.
That's awesome.
And I have weddings in there too.
I know, right? Oh, yeah. And you shoot weddings too. And it's busy season. All the things. And so do you host your own workshops?
It's funny. This girl been in my diary. Where you looking? Like I just see what she's looking through because I literally have a folder. I will show you on my desktop. I am planning my own video marketing workshop. I'm a little slow on it, and not because I don't want to do it. It's name how many video marketing workshops you've really heard of. That's where I'm at. So it's kind of like I have the pieces and the ideas and I throw them in that folder so that I'm saving them. But I'm trying to figure out like where it needs to be held. I know who I want to market it to, but that's all a factor. So I've been reaching out to people who actually have hosted successful workshops and how they go about that. And that's pretty much where I'm at. I'm not looking for it to be perfect, but I want some structure to it. So that way I can, when I do talk about it, I can launch it. But something that I am launching next month, which will be very helpful for you guys if you paid attention to what I said about IGTV and IG stories, is I am launching IG Stories Curator next month. And that's literally going to give people monthly ideas every month. It will be subscription based, and it will be only for private access. So if you sign up, that's how you'll get access to it. But I'm not really seeing a lot of people have that kind of content, like what to do on IG stories. They're usually telling you what to post on the feed and captions and stuff. And I think because IG stories is more of a video type of content, I was like, this is my lane. Even if someone else is doing it, they're not Anesha. So I'm just going to do it. And I know that this is something my group has also expressed. Like, they'll be like, I don't know what to say, or nobody cares about my life. My life is boring. So when I started hearing that, like, this is a void.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll be launching that next month. And when you go to my website, there will be a sign up button for that if you're interested in signing up for that. So that's something you could do.
Yay. Okay. I'm so excited. And one last thing, how can we find you on Instagram?
Okay. So wedding wise, it's always going to be Unashamed Imaging wherever you're looking for me. Video marketing wise, it's always going to be Learn with AC. So that's the names on Instagram. But I recently changed my Instagram to Learn with AC Community. I'm revamping that how I want to use it, because I was kind of I didn't like the way I was using it. So I'm basically keeping it short. I'm revamping that. But yeah, Unashamed Imaging for weddings, Learn with AC for video marketing.
I love it. This episode was chock full of information. Super excited for everyone to check it out. And until I get to meet you in person, I'm super excited and can't wait. And thank you so much for everything today.
Absolutely. I had a lot of fun. Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Purpose to Create podcast. Share, like, comment, or review this episode. Check out the show notes at www.purposetocreatepodcast.com and connect with us online at Purpose to Create.